Ever scroll through Instagram, see one of those really awesome animated shorts, and think, man, I wish I could do that.
It's a whole other world, though, right? Animation. But what if I told you there's a research paper out there that could, change everything?
Okay, yeah, now you've got my attention. What is it, like some secret animation software? Something only the pros know about?
Even better. This paper, it introduces MIMO. Basically, it's a system that could turn, anyone with a creative spark into an animation wizard. And get this, no fancy studio required. We're talking single image to a full-blown animated video. And it's all thanks to AI.
Wait, hold up. Are you telling me I could take, a doodle I made of my dog and make it dance across the screen?
You're getting the idea. See, the traditional route to animation, 3D animation, it's notoriously complex and expensive, right? You need those motion capture suits, a gazillion cameras.
Like that behind-the-scenes footage you always see, where it's basically just a bunch of dots moving around. That's never seemed simple to me.
It's not. And while there's been some really cool progress with 2D animation using this fancy stuff called diffusion models, even those struggle, with making characters move smoothly, realistically, especially if you want them interacting with, reality.
So that's where MIMO swoops in to save the day, with a cape and everything.
MIMO comes equipped with a whole arsenal of innovation, actually. But the three big takeaways are its scalability, generality, and, dare I say it, applicability.
Okay, gotta love some good jargon. But for those of us who haven't, dedicated our lives to animation tech, what do those actually mean?
Okay, so scalability means MIMO isn't picky. So whether your character is a realistic human or it's straight out a comic book, MIMO can handle it.
Okay, I like it.
And then generality. This thing can make characters move in incredibly complex ways. Think Olympic gymnast level of complexity.
Okay, now that is just showing off. But I have to ask, what about that last one, the make it rain of the animation world applicability? What's that all about?
That's where it gets really cool. Applicability means taking your animated creation and seamlessly plopping it into, a real-world video. Imagine, that dog of yours that you're going to animate strutting down the streets of New York City. MIMO can make it happen.
This is starting to sound like some, Black Mirror stuff, but in a good way.
Yeah.
How does it even work, though? Is this some secret code that the animation gods passed down?
Well, the paper dives deep into the technical wizardry, of course, but the star of the show here is something called Spatial Decomposed Modeling.
Spatial Decomposed. Yeah, that's going to need a bit of translation for us non-geniuses out here.
Picture it this way. MIMO takes your video, and instead of just seeing one flat image, it's it sees all the different layers. Like a perfectly stacked cake. You've got your character, your background, any objects that might be in the way.
Okay, I kind of get that. It's like those photo editing apps where you can select different parts of the image, right? But instead of just being on top of each other, MIMO gets that they're in 3D space.
You got it. And because it understands the depth and position of everything, it can create those super realistic interactions. There's even an example in the paper where they animated a character dodging around obstacles in a real-world scene, and it looked like they were really there.
This is just blowing my mind. It's like they're teaching a computer to see the world the way that we do.
Exactly. And it's not just about, the visuals. Remember those structured body codes that we mentioned earlier? Those are the puppet strings of the animation world.
Yeah.
They're what give MIMO incredible control over the character's movements.
Hold on. Are we talking make it do a backflip while reciting Shakespeare levels of control?
Yeah.
Because that's the dream.
You're not far off. You give MIMO these high-level instructions. So, walk, dance, climb that wall over there, you name it. And then it translates that into this really smooth, natural motion. No more painstakingly adjusting every single joint for hours on end.
Okay, if I'm being honest, I'm starting to freak out a little bit at the possibilities here. This could be huge for animators, filmmakers, heck, even just regular people with a story to tell.
Yeah, no, it could be totally revolutionary. Imagine a world where budget limitations are a thing of the past, right? Where anyone with a good idea and a smartphone can become the next Spielberg.
Or the next big YouTube animator.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's back up for a sec. I get that MIMO is breaking down all these barriers to entry and everything, but how much of this is still science fiction? How close is this stuff to actually working the way you're describing it?
That's a great question, because while MIMO is mind-blowingly cool, it's not perfect, right? It's still learning, it's still evolving. Think of it like this, remember those like early deep fake videos?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of rough around the edges?
Definitely more nightmare fuel than future of film back then.
Exactly. But the tech got better.
Right.
Right. And it got better faster and faster. And MIMO's on that same trajectory. And like a big part of its learning comes from the special ingredient we touched on earlier, the HUD 7K dataset.
Right. The secret sauce. You mentioned it's a mix of real and computer-generated data. But why is that such a big deal? Couldn't they just, like, I don't know, teach it with, like, 1 million hours of Pixar movies or something?
It's more nuanced than that. So real-world footage, that's like MIMO's crash course in, like, physics.
Yes.
And, human behavior, how light hits a moving object, the subtle ways people shift their weight when they move around. Pixar's great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But even they take some creative liberties, right?
That's true. So you're saying without that real-world data, MIMO might create these animations that are, like, technically impressive, but they'd still feel a little dot off.
Precisely. It's the difference between, like, a robot trying to mimic human movement and, like a dancer expressing, like, genuine emotion through their movement. But here's the catch. With real-world footage, you're limited to, well, what actually exists, right?
And that's where the computer-generated stuff comes in.
Bingo.
Ah.
With synthetic data, the sky's the limit, right? Imagine, like, you can craft a character, and this character has 3 arms, right? And then you teach it to juggle chainsaws while riding a unicycle on the moon.
Okay, now you're just messing with me.
Maybe a little.
But no, I see what you mean. It's about, like, giving MIMO all the building blocks to create anything you can imagine.
Exactly. And by training it on both types of data, the researchers have created a system that's, both incredibly realistic and wildly imaginative. It's like giving an artist a palette of every color imaginable.
Okay, so I have to ask, how did they even create this data set? Was it like a bunch of interns filming wacky stuff for months?
Believe it or not, building the synthetic part of HUD 7K was like making a movie in reverse. So they used like 3D modeling software to design this whole cast of characters, each with their own unique look, their own way of moving.
Wait, so they were like building them from scratch? Like bones and all?
Oh, yeah.
That's some like hardcore digital puppetry.
And then comes the motion capture.
Yeah.
Remember those suits with the little white dots?
Yeah.
So they use that tech to record real actors performing like this whole library of actions, everything from walking, talking, to like dancing, even martial arts.
So they're taking those real life movements and then like mapping them onto these digital puppets they made?
Yep.
That's genius.
And then to finish it all off, they used super powerful rendering software to create the final animations. They add the lighting, the textures, basically make those digital puppets come alive.
Man, the amount of work that must have gone into just training MIMO, it's mind-blowing. But I guess that's the price you pay for, like revolutionizing an entire industry.
And the crazy part is, it's not just animation that stands to benefit from this, right? Imagine the possibilities in fields like, virtual reality, therapy. Heck, even architecture could get a major upgrade from something like this.
Wait, seriously, I'm picturing like architects using this to create these crazy lifelike simulations of buildings before they're even built. Or like therapists using VR to help patients like face their fears, but in a safe environment.
You're getting it. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're talking about a future where like complex scientific concepts can be taught through these like hyper-realistic interactive animations, where like history can be experienced firsthand through these virtual tours led by like lifelike historical figures.
Okay, now I really feel like I'm living in the wrong decade.
Right.
This HUD 7K dataset sounds like it could spark a whole new era of like crazy innovation across so many different fields.
And that's the truly exciting part, isn't it? We're not just talking about making prettier cartoons here, right? We're talking about fundamentally changing how we learn, how we create, how we experience the world around us.
Okay, I need a minute to like process all of this. This is huge.
Take your time. It's a lot to unpack, but while you're, pondering the vast implications of like sentient toasters and AI designed theme park.
Hey, I haven't ruled those out as possibilities yet.
Fair enough. But seriously, while you're wrapping your head around all of that, I think it's important to remember one key thing.
Okay, don't worry. I'm listening. Lay it on me. Okay, I think I'm back from my brief existential crisis there. But seriously, this whole conversation has me thinking.
About how we might all have personal robot assistants who double as animation directors by next year.
Yeah, a podcast host can dream.
Yeah.
But no, it's more about this idea that, like, animation at its core, it's about bringing something to life that wasn't alive before, you know.
It is, yeah. It's storytelling at its most fundamental. We, like as humans, we're hardwired to be captivated by movement, by stories told visually. Think cave paintings, shadow puppets.
Stop motion Lego animations on YouTube.
Exactly. And MIMO and this whole new wave of AI tools, they're just the latest chapter in a very, very long story, right? We're not, like, replacing human creativity here. We're just giving it an upgrade.
That's actually a really good point. It's like those artists back in the day who were like super skeptical of the first cameras. Little did they know photography would become like its own art form and painting would continue to thrive alongside it.
And think about how film itself evolved, right? From those silent films to like the CGI-fueled epics we have today. Each leap in technology, it opens up a whole universe of new possibilities. MIMO's just the latest portal we're stepping through.
Okay, now I'm picturing an award show in the metaverse where the award for like best animated feature goes to something made by a teenager with his smartphone and a head full of ideas.
Why not? That's the beauty of this, right? It levels the playing field. So suddenly, all those incredible stories that might have stayed trapped in someone's imagination, you know, just because they didn't have $1 million budget to get them out there, they can come to life.
It's like we're handing out magic wands, but instead of spells, they're coated with the ability to make anything move and breathe and, like, actually exist on screen.
And not just for entertainment, right? Imagine medical students learning anatomy from these hyper-realistic interactive models they can, like, manipulate with their hands. Or engineers being able to visualize these super complex structures in ways that just weren't possible before.
Or me, finally fulfilling my lifelong dream of creating a stop-motion cooking show, but with ingredients that don't melt under the studio lights.
See, the possibilities really are endless. And that's why this research, even though it's, you know, it's just one paper, one data set, it just feels so significant.
It's like a peek through a keyhole into the future. And what we're seeing is like this world just brimming with creative potential, all fueled by this amazing collaboration between human imagination and AI ingenuity.
And that is incredibly exciting.
It really, really is. So for anyone listening who's feeling that same spark of excitement, that what if tingling in the back of their mind,
go chase that feeling, dive into the research, experiment with all these cool new tools that are emerging. Who knows, you might just be the one to usher in that next big creative revolution.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of MIMO, animation's new frontier. As always, thanks for joining us and keep those imaginations firing.